In the quiet desert outskirts near a forgotten town, where the sand stretched endlessly and the wind whispered through dry grass, lived a young mechanic named Armin. He spent most of his days fixing old trucks and motorcycles in a small metal workshop that barely survived the heat of the sun. Life in the town was slow and predictable. Nothing extraordinary ever happened there, but that was about to change. One evening, just after sunset, Armin closed his workshop and began walking home along a lonely dirt road that passed through the desert. The sky was glowing orange and purple, and the air carried the cool breath of night. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. It wasn't the cry of a bird or the howl of a desert fox. It sounded like a weak whimper. Armin stopped. "Hello," he called into the empty darkness. The sound came again, soft, painful, almost like a small animal struggling to breathe. Curious and concerned, Armin followed the noise toward a cluster of rocks. Behind them, lying on the sand, was a small creature unlike anything he had ever seen. At first glance, it looked like a wounded fox, but its fur shimmered faintly like silver under the moonlight, and its eyes glowed a soft blue. One of its legs was injured, and a strange burn mark covered part of its side. Armin knelt beside it carefully. "Hey, easy," he whispered. The creature looked at him with fear, but didn't try to run. It was too weak. Armin gently picked it up. "Don't worry. I'll help you." He carried the creature home and placed it on an old blanket. Using basic supplies from his workshop, he cleaned the wound and wrapped the injured leg with cloth. The creature watched him silently the entire time, its glowing eyes never blinking. Over the next few days, Armin took care of it. He fed it small pieces of meat and gave it water. The creature slowly regained strength, though it behaved strangely. Sometimes it stared at the sky for hours. Other times, it made soft humming sounds that almost sounded intelligent. By the fourth night, something extraordinary happened. Armin was sitting in his small living room when the creature suddenly stood up from the blanket. Its blue eyes began glowing brighter. Then the room filled with light. Armin stumbled backward in shock as the creature's body started to change. The silver fur dissolved into particles of light. Its shape grew taller, stretching upward, transforming before his eyes. Within seconds, the small animal was gone. Standing in its place was a young woman. She had long silver hair that flowed like liquid metal, glowing pale blue eyes, and skin that shimmered faintly as if made of starlight. She wore a strange suit that looked like living fabric. Armin stared in complete disbelief. You are the animal," he gasped. The woman looked at him calmly. "Yes," she said softly, "and you saved my life." Armin struggled to process what he was seeing. What are you?" She stepped forward. "My name is Lyra. I am the princess of the Ilari, a civilization from the star system you call Vega." Armin blinked. "An alien princess?" Lyra nodded. "Our species has the ability to shift biological form for survival. When my escape pod crashed on your planet, my body adapted into a smaller creature to survive the impact." Armin ran a hand through his hair, trying to stay calm. This can't be real, but it was. Lyra walked toward the window and looked at the stars. "My ship was attacked," she explained quietly. "An enemy empire known as the Karoks are hunting my people. I was fleeing to a hidden alliance world when my vessel was damaged and forced to crash here." Armin felt a chill. "You're being chased?" "Yes," Lyra replied. Almost as if summoned by those words, a loud rumble shook the ground outside. The sky lit up with red light. Armin rushed to the door and looked up. Descending through the clouds was a massive triangular spacecraft glowing with dark energy. Lyra's expression turned serious. "They found me." Before Armin could react, 3 black drop pods blasted down into the desert outside his house. The ground trembled as the pods opened. From them emerged tall armored soldiers with glowing red visors, Karox hunters. "They cannot take me alive," Lyra said calmly. Armin looked at the approaching figures and then back at her. "Then we won't let them." Lyra looked surprised. "You would risk your life for someone you barely know?" Armin smiled slightly. "I already saved you once, didn't I?" Outside, the soldiers began scanning the area. Armin grabbed tools from his workshop and started quickly modifying an old generator. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked. "Making a distraction." Within minutes, Armin rigged the generator into a makeshift electromagnetic pulse device. When the soldiers came close enough, he activated it. The device exploded with a burst of energy. The Karox soldiers staggered as their systems malfunctioned. "Now!" Armin shouted. Lyra raised her hand. A glowing blue energy formed around her palm, transforming into a blade of pure light. With incredible speed, she moved through the stunned soldiers, disarming them effortlessly. The battle lasted less than a minute. The hunters lay defeated, but the larger enemy ship still hovered above. "They will send more," Lyra said. "We must leave this planet." Armin looked at the sky, then back at his small dusty home. His entire life had been here, but suddenly the universe felt much bigger. "How?" he asked. Lyra pointed toward the desert. "My escape pod still contains a quantum beacon. With it I can contact my fleet." They raced across the dunes on Armin's old motorbike until they reached the crash site, a half-buried metallic pod glowing faintly beneath the sand. Lyra activated the beacon. Moments later, the sky split open with brilliant light. 3 massive silver starships emerged from hyperspace. The Karox vessel immediately retreated. Lyra's people had arrived. A beam of light descended, lifting them both aboard the largest ship. Inside, Armin found himself surrounded by towering windows showing endless stars. Alien officers bowed respectfully to Lyra. She turned to him with gratitude. "You saved not only my life," she said, "but possibly the future of my entire world." Armin looked out at space, speechless. "Where will you go now?" he asked. Lyra smiled gently. "My people are rebuilding after years of war. I must return and lead them." Armin nodded slowly. "That sounds important." She studied his face carefully. "You could return to Earth," she said. "But if you choose, you could also come with me. The universe is far larger than your world." Armin thought about the dusty town, the empty roads, and the quiet life he once knew. Then he looked at the endless galaxies outside the window. He smiled. "Well," he said, "I guess fixing alien starships might be more interesting than old trucks." Lyra laughed softly, and as the great starship accelerated into the depths of space, Armin realized something incredible. He had saved a dying animal, but in doing so, he had discovered an entire universe waiting beyond the stars.